Earlier this week, the Washington Post suggested Republicans may have to find something else to criticize me for. Now that inflation is coming down, maybe they'll decide to impeach me because it's coming down. I don't know. I love that one.
All right, guys, so I want to react to this video of Kevin McCarthy laying out the argument for the upcoming impeachment inquiry against Joe Biden. And we got to use precise language here because Republicans are trying to be very careful about going about impeaching Joe Biden or the possibility of impeaching Joe Biden. Because, again, the media is basically reporting that, hey, Kevin McCarthy is getting ready to impeach Joe Biden. And if you listen to Kevin McCarthy talk, okay, before this interview, it does sound like that's what, he's throwing out there is, impeaching Joe Biden, right? But he's trying to basically low-key walk it back and to say, well, the reporting on this is dishonest, right? Even though, again, you have conservative media as well, too, basically reporting the same thing. Regardless, he's saying that the reporting was dishonest and that it's just an impeachment inquiry. Now, behind the scenes, you have so-called moderate Republicans are concerned about this, right? They're concerned about the possibility of impeaching Joe Biden because they believe that is not going to be good for them in their swing district races, okay? They believe that this could actually backfire and that maybe trying to impeach Joe Biden is not necessarily a good idea. But to me, it seems that, Republicans are floating with the same political strategy that Democrats enacted when Trump was in office in regards to smearing Trump through a baseless impeachment, right? But the difference is that Republicans, at least it seems like that's what they're trying to do, they're not trying to rush the impeachment process the same way Democrats did over a phone call that, again, ultimately, turned out to, be warranted, right? The questions that Trump was asking about Biden and Hunter, because that's what they were doing, right? I mean, he was, again, right to ask those questions. They're trying to gather all the facts and evidence and to make sure that if they do, in fact, impeach Joe Biden or move forward with, impeachment against Joe Biden, that they have a strong case. So I want to play this clip because I think it's important for people to understand exactly what Kevin McCarthy plans to do and the argument that he's laying out here. Okay, so he's going to set this dishonest reporter straight, right, about reporting around impeachment. So let's get into it.
Yes, ma'am. You're pretty excited. Yeah.
Earlier this week, we talked about what was the idea of impeaching President Biden as the investigation content not within Congress. Are you still?
Okay, let me first correct you. Were you there when I said that? Okay, then what did I say?
You said potentially that is something you guys could use.
Okay, so you're claiming that I said we're going to impeach the president. I floated the idea of impeachment. Okay, so you're wrong. So if you record, go back and watch. I said impeachment inquiry.
Now, here's the thing, right? Again, this is a semantics game. I'm not sure to the layman that there's much of a difference between saying that, well, I'm floating impeachment or impeaching Joe Biden versus an impeachment inquiry. I guess an impeachment inquiry would give them more ability to look further into the alleged crimes of the Biden crime family, right? But regardless, I mean, that you are kind of floating the idea of impeachment when you have an inquiry, right? An inquiry is like, looking further into the facts and the information to try to build a case, right? I mean, to me, that seems to be floating with impeachment, but maybe he's trying to differentiate this because he's not trying to play it up too much, which, again, allegedly, from what I read behind the scenes, that's what he's telling Republicans to come out in public and don't play it up too much. Obviously, we're going to talk about it, but we don't want to play it up as if it's going to happen for certain, right? Until we continue to build a strong case, right? We're going to continue to do fact finding. And before then, we don't really want to play it up too much. So I think that's why he's trying to kind of get the wording right, okay, in regards to what Republicans are actually doing. That's why I'm doing this video, because I think it's important for people to understand and have reasonable expectations for what is going to happen here.
There is a big difference. And let me explain it because maybe not everybody understands it. What impeachment inquiry does when you vote on the floor, it gives you the apex of power of Congress. Okay? And just walk through what? We have 2 whistleblowers from the IRS claiming the Biden family were treated differently, that David Weiss let the statute of limitations run out. The basic rule of thumb in any case, when you're getting the statute of limitations coming up within 6 months, you get an extension based upon the individuals. They said the Bidens were willing to do that. They should do that now. We have an individual that we now found went to the FBI a number of years ago, claiming that they bribed the president and said you couldn't find the money because all the shell companies, it's the 1023. We found that when then Attorney General Barr found it, that he sent it to the Pennsylvania justice, and they said there's more to it. When does an attorney out-investigate the FBI? We then found that the president, Biden, while running for office, made a couple claims. He first looked the public in the eye and said, I've never spoken to my son about any business. He said, my family has not taken one dime from China. In part of this investigation, we found that when the vice president became vice president, his family created 20 shell companies, kind of like what the 1023 said would happen. We found that 16 of the 17 payments from Romania came to the president while he was vice president. We now found that money did come from China, differently said. We've now found the president has changed what he said, but we have a real question about David Weiss and the attorney general and the other 6 people in the meeting. It's contradictory based upon what the IRS agents said and asked questions and took notes from the meetings and emailed everybody about those notes. Now, if you're any member of Congress, this is not saying impeachment. This is not anything but we need to investigate. And what happens, like you watched the situation yesterday, where the federal government says there's still an investigation of the Bidens. Well, the only way you'll be able to get information that way is to have the strength to be able to get the documents you need.
Yeah, so low key, I kind of agree with Kevin McCarthy and what he's saying overall, in the sense that you don't want to launch an impeachment, okay, without having all the facts and making sure that your case is airtight, right? Because Democrats, no matter what they do, Democrats going to come out here and they're going to say, well, it's politically motivated. It's a witch hunt. They're just trying to get revenge on Joe Biden for what happened to Trump. They're going to say it's not legitimate regardless, right? Despite all the evidence that we do have, if there's more evidence to be gathered and you can continue to build a case, because they don't have to do it now. Honestly, it's better if they don't do it now. It's honestly better to push it back as long as they can to right before the election, probably in the summer, right? Right around when all the Trump trials will be happening and stuff like that for the stuff he's going through. It's better to do it then, right? And to take more time to build a case rather than try to do it now when you still have moderate Republicans, allegedly moderate Republicans, still upset or still unsure about whether or not they want to move forward with this, right? And then you put an impeachment vote on the floor and then it fails. That's really going to basically embolden the liberal media to say, look, see, this was a witch hunt. We told you guys the whole time it was a conspiracy. They have nothing. Biden hasn't committed any crimes. They're attacking Biden for loving his son. So, yeah, McCarthy can't really bring an impeachment vote to the floor or impeachment proceeding against Joe Biden until he knows he has the votes. Now, remember, Republicans have a razor-thin majority in the House. So he literally has to get the whole party in Congress on board. Doesn't matter what happens in the Senate, because the whole point of the Senate is to present all the evidence to the public, the Senate trial, right? We know that because, again, Democrats are going to be lockstep with, the Democrat agenda. They're not going to, it doesn't matter what the evidence shows. It doesn't matter what evidence shows, okay? They're not going to vote to impeach Joe Biden, right? They're not going to vote to remove Joe Biden from office, right? They're not going to vote to do it. The Senate trial is really about forcing the media to cover it and letting the people decide whether or not the evidence dictates that the Biden administration is corrupt, right? Or that some type of crime was committed. That's the whole point. We know that the liberal media is going to say, regardless, that there was nothing here, is BS. But that's why having a airtight case is so important, because you're against not just the Democrats, but you're against the whole mainstream liberal media establishment, who is going to say that it's a conspiracy, that they have nothing. So you got to make sure that your case is so airtight that these people who are undecided, the people that really don't know that much about it, they hear about it, they listen to it, and they say, okay, well, this is what I think, right? It's so undisputable that, hey, this guy committed crimes, this guy should be removed from office, that regardless of whether or not the Senate vote is actually successful, you've already swayed people's minds. And it works, right? It works. I mean, that's what Democrats did with Trump. Democrats knew with the 2 impeachments against Trump that there was no chance that Trump was actually going to be removed from office. They knew that. The point was not to remove Trump from office or to actually punish Trump. The point was to sway public opinion. And that's the whole point, right? Because unfortunately, Republicans just don't have the votes in the Senate to actually remove Biden from office. So I don't think that anybody should look at impeachment as something to actually remove Biden from office. It's not going to happen. Impeachment is really more about swaying public opinion, swaying the opinion of the independent, swaying the independent of the person who doesn't have time to, watch my YouTube channel, right? Or to watch, a bunch of, more in-depth analysis in regards to what's going on, okay? It's to sway the person that has maybe 30 minutes a day to pay attention to the news. And if the news is covering the impeachment trial, which they would have to, because, again, we're talking about potentially impeaching a sitting president, they can ignore hearings, right? They can't ignore an impeachment trial. If the news is covering it, then that's the chance for the Republicans to present their case to the American people, okay? And I think that's what he's gunning for here.
I was concerned when asked the question that I haven't seen an administration act this way at the same time as Nixon did by withholding information. If they do not provide the information we need, then we would go to an impeachment inquiry. Impeachment inquiry, which simply is an investigation and providing Congress the power to do that investigation. So I'm glad you asked a question that I could clarify that you misinterpreted and misstated.
Yeah,
Yes,
so behind closed doors, Kevin is telling Republicans, don't play it up too much, right? Still, come out here and say, hey, we're investigating, we're gathering more information, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I think he's using the term impeachment inquiry on purpose to try to, again, put that term impeachment in people's minds. But at the same time, he's now trying to clarify that we're still in the process of fact finding, which, again, I don't think is a bad thing because, again, you don't want to impeach Joe if you don't have an airtight case against him, right? If you can't get the votes from moderate Republicans that, hey, we need to impeach Joe, again, that will basically ruin everything. That would basically guarantee a Democrat victory in 2024 if the Republicans put an impeachment vote on the floor and it fails in the House. They can't even get it to Senate trial to show evidence. Yeah, that would be terrible, right? That would be terrible, and that would basically make everything that Republicans have been saying about Joe Biden basically seem like a witch hunt if they can't even get, if Kevin can't even get his own party on board with impeaching Joe Biden. So again, that's kind of what's going on here, right? And I just want to clarify that for you guys so that you guys understand and have reasonable expectations for what comes next, okay? Now, will Kevin actually go through with it? I don't know, right? Who knows, okay? I mean, again, he's Speaker of the House. We don't really know, but to me, it seems like the more time that passes, the more evidence that does come out, the more clear it becomes to me that Joe Biden was selling influence and getting kickbacks through his son overseas. But again, the argument in the case has to be airtight, right? So I kind of get it, even though I wish that, they would just get on with it. I understand the political strategy here, right? So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.